Thanks, Joe. And it's really a pleasure to be here, and I'll keep coming as often as I can because I think it's good to get together. And my apologies that I'm going to have to run out fairly quickly, but that's just the story of our lives these days. My first message is actually from this. When I look at it, normally I try to tell you how many companies are a member of RxND. So today I can tell you it's 50. That changes all the time because of mergers and acquisitions that's going on. So my first message today, as you well know, is our industry is going through huge and phenomenal change at a global level and at a national level. And I think all of us are just running as hard as we can to catch up with that change. And it's exciting, but it's also very challenging. I guess another first comment that I would make is on your last question, Joe, is whether the environment will get better or worse. And we were pretty well divided in the room about what that would be. And I think one of the things that we're going to try to do at RxND is work our best to make sure the environment changes for the better. Whether that's in access, whether that's in intellectual property protection, whether that's in regulatory affairs, and that's what we're working very hard on. So what I'm going to talk today in my 10 minutes is a quick overview, and it's next to impossible to do an overview of the industry in 10 minutes, but I thought I'd highlight on a few issues. Access, some of the IP issues, and a couple of other ones that I thought would be interesting to talk about. But one of the things we're now doing with all our payers, private and public, is everybody is interested in sustainability of our healthcare system and predictability. That's of interest to us. It's of interest to the payers. And we are trying to work towards a consensus collaborative model and trying to deal with that. But if you look at and we're trying to find solutions. We're trying to work them out on a case-by-case basis because one size does not fit all in this country. We are trying to be positive in our approach and build the models that represent the needs of particularly the provincial governments. But right now, when you look at access, you look at our innovative medicines and vaccines getting to Canadians, we're not doing very well. And we've been benchmarking that over the last 3 years. We've done an international study. We are going to continue to do these studies. And unfortunately, Canada has come 20th out of 25 when we tracked. And the way we did it, and I won't go into the full study, but we took 82 of the new drugs in 25 countries and tracked those. So when we say 20 out of 25, it's based on those 82 drugs. And in 7 of the countries that we studied, 90% of those drugs were available. In many of the other ones, the average was 74%. In Canada, the average in CDR, and I think one of the other speakers will be talking about CDR, it drops to about 56, and then you add in provincial formularies, it drops again. So in terms of making our innovative medicines available for patients, and often we forget about that when we're talking about our business, we are trying to bring innovative medicines to the healthcare system, to patients, to help them live better lives. And unfortunately, we don't have, even though our country is talking about being supportive of innovation, if we don't have the policies and mechanisms to make that innovation available in our healthcare system, we are not in fact supporting the basic concepts of innovation. I think, though, our industry has some responsibility to tell our story better. I think we have to tell our story more passionately and maybe hand in hand with the various patient groups and providers that we work with. Because there is great value in our medicines. There is great value in terms of the quality of care as well as the sustainability of our healthcare system. Our studies show that $1 invested in innovative medicines saves up to $7 elsewhere in the system. Yet what you look here is a very troubling tendency. What you see here is a very troubling tendency. This is incidentally provincial formularies. It is not some of the special access programs, and it's, so it may not totally represent the perspective in a province. For instance, in BC, you'll see a very poor pharmacare listing behavior. But if you actually add in their cancer agency and HIV centers of excellence, BC has a completely different behavior and is probably some of the leaders in the country because they're very patient-focused and outcome-focused in the cancer agency and HIV AIDS centers. Yet in pharmacare, there is not that same vision. The other tendency you'll see is more and more restrictive listings, and again, barriers to access, administrative barriers in which citizens do not get access to innovative medicines. That we're trying to work on with each and every government. Now, in terms of intellectual property, again, Canada is not doing as well as it could. It has some very global level IP regime, but if you look at some of the basics, whether it's patent term restoration, whether you look at it, the right of appeal, that is during the patent battles between generics and ourselves, we do not have that right of appeal. You look at the European free trade negotiation called CETA, and the Europeans have already put on the table the